Chapter 18:16. Just as their bodies moved. Bang! 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 A series of explosive sounds could be heard. In an instant, the figures of the people of the breeze pavilion who were running outside exploded into pieces in midair. Countless pieces of flesh and blood fell from the sky like rain. The eyes of Su Yu and the others instantly froze. At this time, Luo Qingtong was catching the falling little pig. She suddenly raised her head when she felt the movement in front of her. Then, the light in her eyes instantly shrank. Luo Qingtong. In the sky above the space at the bottom of the cliff, 3 figures stood in the air. The aura of these 3 figures was even above that of the breeze pavilion master. Although he wasn't as strong as the mutated cool breeze pavilion master, his aura was still at the Saint King realm. The person in front was obviously at the peak of the Saint King realm. Humph. I didn't expect you to have so many hidden cards. Elder Xia, the outer court elder of our celestial palace, was killed by you. And the 3 disciples who came to investigate the cause of Elder Xia's death were also killed by you, right? The peak of the Saint King realm powerhouse coldly said. Although his words were interrogative, the tone of his words was clear and certain. The 3 of them were ordered to investigate the cause of death of Elder Xia and the 3 disciples, as well as the whereabouts of the map of the Saint King's tomb. Originally, they were just secretly following the people of the breeze pavilion to see if they were secretly contacting others. They didn't expect to discover that the people of the breeze pavilion had gone to the true Spill continent. Then, they discovered this space at the bottom of the cliff. The 3 of them were wild with joy. They forcibly suppressed the joy in their hearts and prepared to act like the mantis that catches the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Once the people from the breeze pavilion obtained the celestial jade bones, they would make their move. They would surround and kill all of these people before taking the celestial jade bones away. At the same time, they would interrogate the people from the breeze pavilion about the cause of Elder Xia's death. However, they didn't expect that the people of the breeze pavilion would discover the immortal jade bone here. At the same time, they also discovered Luo Qingtong's true strength. In this unremarkable true Spill continent, there was actually such a peerless and monstrous girl hidden. Not only was her combat strength amazing, but she also had such a powerful and terrifying card. What was that claw just now? Was it transformed from the little pig in her hand? And the secret of the immortal jade bone was also in her hands. The 3 of them looked at Luo Qingtong with burning eyes, and their hearts were filled with unspeakable joy. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect we would have such an opportunity. Senior brother, the sect has really let us off easy this time by sending us out. The man behind the peak of Saint King realm said. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was filled with unconcealable greed. He was an upper-level Saint King realm cultivator and the other person beside him was also an upper-level Saint King realm cultivator. It could be seen how important this matter was to the celestial palace. After the 3 disciples died, they immediately sent out the backbone of the celestial palace to investigate this matter. 3 Saint King realm cultivators, and one of them was at the peak of the Saint King realm. Even if it was really the people of the breeze pavilion who did this, the 3 of them were more than enough to wipe out the entire sect. Chapter 18:17. Boom! As they spoke, they released their auras, completely enveloping the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. None of the people here could escape. Luo Qingtong could naturally break through their aura barrier and leave, but what about Old Man Luo, Empress Dowager Yan Shi, Su Yu, Tian Xia, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others? And the people of the imperial sect? Only Shi and Yu Sihuang could pass through the aura barrier of these 3 people. Could it be that they had to leave the others behind? This was absolutely impossible. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she looked at the 3 figures that appeared in front of her. Not far away, the Grand Supreme Dean also suddenly widened his eyes. My God, Celestial Palace's people? Protector. He had just arrived when Luo Qingtong killed the Cool Breeze Pavilion's master. Because he was too shocked, he was stunned and didn't rush out. He originally planned to launch a sneak attack, so he didn't leave any traces. At this moment, seeing the Celestial Palace's people appear in front of Luo Qingtong and the others, he instantly became anxious. A Cool Breeze Pavilion was enough to deal with Luo Qingtong and the others. These 3 Celestial Palace's people weren't people that Luo Qingtong and the others could deal with. Damn it, why hasn't Ming Zun come yet? Is he in the space at the bottom of the cliff? The Grand Supreme Dean was anxious. Seeing that the Celestial Palace's people were about to attack Luo Qingtong and the others, he suddenly steeled his heart and used something on his body to jump out. That thing had been on him for many years, but he had never used it in order to avoid certain people and certain things. But now, Luo Qingtong and the others were clearly in danger. Not to mention anything else, Luo Qingtong had cured his internal injuries. This life-saving grace, he had to return it to her. For this, he couldn't care less about anything else. Evil Dr. Baby. Rip. The Grand Supreme Dean's voice was accompanied by the sound of silk tearing. Suddenly, he tore apart the aura barrier of the 3 Saint King Realm experts at the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. His body was enveloped in a reddish-gold light barrier. The strong aura fluctuation emitted from it was not inferior to the aura of the peak Saint King Realm expert. It was even stronger. At this moment, under the protection of the light barrier, the Grand Supreme Dean directly tore their barrier. He then hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong and the others, "Hurry, leave this place, I'll stop them." His face was filled with urgency. This defensive light barrier could only be used for a limited time. Luo Qingtong and the rest had to leave this place quickly. Otherwise, he would not be able to hold on. "You Si Huang, take my grandpa and the others leave immediately. Everyone from the Luo clan and Tian Xie, retreat. Go to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Go find Qian." Chapter 18:18. What they needed to do now was to immediately escort the old man and the others away, so that their master wouldn't be worried, and then, to find Ming Zun. Bastard! Little Tyrant Yuan fiercely beat the back of his hand and gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for Big Brother's wife being in the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff, these people wouldn't be able to hurt Boss at all. If they have the ability, then they should come when Big Brother's husband is here. F***CK. His eyes were blood red, and he was about to go crazy from anger. His boss was so talented, and these trash from the hidden world only knew how to rely on their strength to bully others. When they found Yi Qianxian, these bastards would have to bear the consequences. Bullying them for being from the secular world. They even looked down on them from the hidden world. Several attacks in a row, from the Breeze Pavilion to the Celestial Palace, made Little Tyrant Yuan and the others have a very bad impression of the hidden world. High and mighty your sister. Who didn't walk from the weak to the strong? When they went to the hidden world, they would definitely show these bastards who looked down on others. Little Tyrant Yuan was anxious in his heart. Su Xiaoxiao, Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan, and the others' expressions were also incomparably cold. They used to yearn for the hidden world to the extreme. But now, the people from the Celestial Palace and the Breeze Pavilion made them have no good impression of those high and mighty people who looked down on them from the so-called high and mighty places. From then on, as long as they saw the high and mighty heaven's favored ones, they would start to attack them, and started to be called the walking heaven's favored sweeper, making the foreign heaven's favored ones so angry that their teeth itched, but they couldn't do anything about it. Let's not talk about this later. Swoosh! The group of people quickly rushed to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Yu Si Huang also didn't have any opinion on Luo Qingtong's words. He knew that Luo Qingtong trusted him by leaving the safety of old man Luo and the others to him. The depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff were full of dangers, and he couldn't not go together to protect old man Luo and the others. "I'll go find Yi Qianxian, you wait," he said to Luo Qingtong with a serious expression. Although he was extremely dissatisfied with his love rival, Yi Qianxian. But at this moment, only that man could help Luo Qingtong. She did not know how that damned man cultivated his strength. It was simply terrifying. If not for the fact that his strength was not weak, he would have been beaten to death by the other party. Thinking of this, Yu Sihuang's heart was depressed and he gritted his teeth. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. She didn't say anything else and directly turned around and rushed towards the direction of the Grand Dean. The latter was trying his best to fend off the 3 celestial palace protectors, preventing them from pursuing Luo Qingtong and the others. The reddish-gold shield on his body could withstand the attacks of the 3 people, so they couldn't hurt him. Just like that, he kept the 3 celestial palace protectors entangled, not allowing them to take even half a step closer to him. However, at this moment, he saw Luo Qingtong turn around and instantly stared at her. "Hey, you little girl, why did you come back?" The Grand Dean stomped his feet in anger. He finally managed to stop the 3 people. Why did Luo Qingtong come back? She couldn't beat them. These 3 people can't be let go. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. At the same time, she glanced at the reddish-gold shield on the Grand Dean. Chapter 18-19. Under the series of attacks from the 3 people, the light of the protective shield dimmed quite a bit. Obviously, there was a limit to the use of this shield. The Grand Supreme Dean might not be able to hold on until he left safely. Moreover, if he left, these 3 people would fly into a rage out of humiliation and would absolutely not let the Grand Dean off. At that time, they would surround him and exhaust the power of his shield. The Grand Supreme Dean would be in danger. Luo Qingtong would not leave the Grand Supreme Dean alone. "Hey, you evil doctor child." The Grand Supreme Dean felt touched and warm. Just as he was about to say something, the 3 celestial palace experts saw Luo Qingtong return and instantly rushed toward her. Seeing this, the Grand Supreme Dean did not have time to speak and hurriedly tried to stop them. However, Luo Qingtong stopped him. "No need, Grand Supreme Dean, you just protect me. Wherever I tell you to go, you go there. Don't worry about their attacks." Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold. The power of the Grand Supreme Dean's pure gold shield was limited. She had to try her best to prolong the time for him so that the shield outside his body could last a little longer. "Ah!" Luo Qingtong's words stunned the Grand Supreme Dean. Before he could react to what Luo Qingtong was saying, the girl's shout had already sounded. Upper left, Zhenkan position. The Grand Supreme Dean's figure subconsciously followed Luo Qingtong's voice and stood in that direction. However, there was no attack coming from that direction at all. What the hell was this girl doing? Did she want to face the 3 celestial palace protectors alone? They were 2 upper-level Saint Kings and 1 peak Saint King. Could this girl stop fooling around? "Hey, evil doctor child." The Grand Supreme Dean looked at Luo Qingtong and wanted to twist his body back. However, Luo Qingtong's words stopped him. "Grand Supreme Dean, trust me." Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes flickered. "I won't put the 2 of us in danger." Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Instantly, the Grand Supreme Dean gritted his teeth. "All right, let's do it. I'll just trust this little kid." The other party had cured the chronic illness in his body and allowed his cultivation to recover. This alone was equivalent to saving half of his life. He would believe him just this once. Boom! As the Grand Supreme Dean spoke, the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand shot out in an instant. Then, it violently blasted towards the 3 celestial palace powerhouses in front of her. "Humph! You overestimate yourself." The three celestial palace protectors snorted coldly. Originally, they were still rather fearful of the reddish-gold barrier that enveloped the Grand Supreme Dean. At this moment, seeing that Luo Qingtong had sent him away and told him to believe her, they all sneered. This young girl with monstrous talent was confident to the point of arrogance. If she could deal with the three of them alone, the people around her wouldn't have had to run away like a coward. After dealing with the two of them and finding out the secret of purifying the celestial jade bones, they would find the people who had fled and kill them all. These people thought that they could escape in the end. Little did they know that when they sealed off this area, they had already left a unique mark on them. When that time came, none of them would be able to escape. The news of the celestial jade bones must not be leaked. Chapter 1820. Boom! Their attacks were directed at Luo Qingtong. They wanted to capture her first before surrounding and killing the Grand Supreme Dean. Then, they would go after Old Master Luo and the others. Their attacks were directed at Luo Qingtong from 3 different directions. Finally, they converged at one point and blasted at the sword light that Luo Qingtong had shot out. They were waiting for Luo Qingtong's sword light to shatter. Then, their attacks instantly pierced through to injure and capture Luo Qingtong. However, when their attacks collided with Luo Qingtong's sword light, something shocking happened with a boom. Their attacks collided with Luo Qingtong's sword light. Then, at the same time and from different angles, the 3 attacks were guided by Luo Qingtong's sword light and collided violently with each other. In an instant, their attacks were neutralized by the collision. Then, the last remaining ray of light was reflected from the direction of Luo Qingtong's sword light. Bang! That attack landed where the Grand Supreme Dean was standing and was completely blocked by him. What? The 3 experts from Celestial Palace widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw this scene. Even an ordinary new Saint King would not be able to block the combined attacks of the 3 of them. How could Luo Qingtong, who had just entered the Saint Marquis realm, block and distort the power of their attacks? It should be known that it was impossible to cause their attacks to deviate if they were not equally strong. However, Luo Qingtong had done it with an attack that was much weaker than theirs. Although the deviation was limited, it was still within the range of her attack. However, because the Grand Supreme Dean had blocked it, their attempt to capture and kill her had become a joke. What was going on? How could this be? However, they did not know that in Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes, the surrounding environment, wind speed, and the flow of spatial energy were all displayed in 3D in front of her eyes. Luo Qingtong had calculated everything. She deliberately directed her sword light at a specific speed and angle towards the 3 experts from Celestial Palace so that their attacks would deviate when they collided with her sword light. This principle could be explained by using 4 ounces to deflect 1,000 pounds. However, what Luo Qingtong needed to do was much harsher than deflecting 1,000 pounds with 4 ounces. 1 against 3. A beginner holy marquis against 3 holy kings. Luo Qingtong's figure stood proudly on the spot. The aura around her was like a rainbow. She pointed the sword light in her hand and looked disdainfully. Her black clothes was domineering and as enchanting as a demon. Come and fight. Bastard! As Luo Qingtong pointed the tip of her sword at them, the 3 Celestial Palace protectors could not stand such provocation. This was a young girl who had just entered the Holy Marquis realm. They were 3 Saint King realm masters. 2 of them were upper holy kings and 1 was peak holy king. Even so, they could not do anything to her. They had really thrown their faces to the bottom of the mud. The Grand Supreme Dean's shout of surprise made the veins on their foreheads throb. They were furious. Ha ha ha. Well done, evil Dr. Kid. The Grand Supreme Dean was surprised and delighted. Chapter 1821. He didn't think that Luo Qingtong would be able to draw the other party's attack over. Although it was only a slight deviation, with him here, both of them would be fine. Unless his protective barrier's time was up. Otherwise, these three people wouldn't be able to hurt him and Luo Qingtong. He could only hope that Deep Venerable could arrive before then. Otherwise, he and evil Dr. Brat would be in deep trouble. As the highest dean was thinking this, somewhere deep within the space at the bottom of the cliff, Yi Qianqian's figure floated in the air. Silver clothes, black hair, golden robes. The man opened his hands and a powerful aura spread out, sinking into the space crack in front of him. This space crack was just as Yi Qianxian had thought, it had been artificially torn open. Yi Qianxian could feel an aura that didn't belong to the true Spill continent or the hidden world. Was it someone from the outer realms? Or perhaps, someone of an even higher level? Yi Qianxian's eyes narrowed. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to distinguish this aura, but that didn't mean he couldn't. Yi Qianxian was born with the heavenly vein body. His strength had already grown to a terrifying degree. The aura left behind in this space crack was clearly an extremely high level of strength. How could such a force exist in the true Spill continent? Moreover, he didn't know anything about it. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. His divine sense and strength followed the remnant aura of this force, trying to trace the other party's whereabouts after opening this space crack. However, just as his aura submerged into this space crack and he was about to catch a trace of the other party's tail, an urgent voice sounded out from behind him. Yi Qianxian, hurry. Hurry to the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. 3 Saint Kings from Celestial Palace are surrounding Qingtong. As this voice sounded out, Yi Qianxian and Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others who were standing guard nearby were all shocked. Qingtong. Yi Qianren's eyes froze. In just an instant, he raised his hands and put them together. With a swoosh, the spatial crack was closed by him. Then, his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the air. Hey, wait for me. That bastard. Yu Sihuang anxiously said. He told Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others to protect Grandfather Luo and the others. Then, he quickly rushed to the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Bang! Outside the space at the bottom of the cliff, Luo Qingtong and the highest Supreme Dean, they were resisting the attacks of the 3 people from Celestial Palace. The 3 people from the Celestial Supreme Palace refused to give up and continued to attack Luo Qingtong, Ts Qing Ts. But in fact, Luo Qingtong really did it. Their attacks were diverted in different ways, and all of them fell on the body of the Grand Supreme Dean, who was constantly moving around beside Luo Qingtong, and were blocked by the other party. However, as one attack after another blasted out, Luo Qingtong's strength was somewhat depleted. Furthermore, the eye technique in her eyes was being used up too quickly, and her mental power was almost depleted. It should be known that once they lost the power of their eye sorcery, Luo Qingtong and the Grand Supreme Dean would be in an extremely passive position when facing the 3 Celestial Palace experts. Chapter 1822. Translations. With a snap, a slight cracking sound could be heard from the reddish gold barrier on the body of the Grand Principal beside her. Oh no! The Grand Supreme Dean's eyes suddenly widened. Oh no, the barrier had consumed too much energy previously. It was going to end early. In fact, if Luo Qingtong had not used her eye technique to hold on for so long, the barrier would have been broken by the previous attacks. Seeing the reddish gold barrier disappear, the 3 Celestial Palace protectors, who were originally furious and frantic, suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. Good, good, good. Your tortoise shell is finally broken. Trash, let's see how you die. As they spoke, they directly attacked the Grand Supreme Dean. Previously, because of the reddish gold barrier around him, the 3 people's attacks were not aimed at him. They were all directed at Luo Qingtong. Now, they would see how he died. The master at the peak of the Saint King realm directly attacked the Supreme Dean. The other two upper-level Saint King powerhouses attacked Luo Qingtong. This time, they wanted to see how the other party could block it. Previously, she could use the Grand Supreme Dean to block their attacks. Now, if she led the attack to him again, the other party could only wait for death. Of course, it did not matter if she did not lead the attack, the other party would still die. The group of people hated the Grand Supreme Dean in their hearts. If it were not for him, they might have already captured Luo Qingtong. There would not be so much trouble. They were also embarrassed by the other party. Fortunately, there was no one else here. Otherwise, if others saw that the three Saint King powerhouses were led by the nose by a young girl who had just entered the Holy Lord realm, they would probably laugh their heads off. The three people's attacks did not leave any leeway. In an instant, they blasted in front of Luo Qingtong and the Grand Supreme Dean. The blood-red light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered violently. In the next second, the blood-red light in her eyes shattered. Under the intense consumption, the mental strength in her mind was exhausted, and her eye technique was temporarily deactivated. Boom! The light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was hollow. Her figure flitted past the two incoming attacks and appeared in front of the Grand Supreme Dean. Bang! The sword light in her hand swung out and collided with the attack coming at the Grand Supreme Dean. In an instant, Luo Qingtong spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body was blown away by the aftermath of the collision between the two attacks. Evil Dr. Kid. Seeing this, the Grand Supreme Headmaster was greatly alarmed and hurriedly wanted to rush over. However, in front of him, another superior Saint King from Celestial Palace had already rushed toward Luo Qingtong. Humph! Slut, you're finally going to fall into our hands. Looking at the young girl who was retreating, the superior Sage King Realm Protector of the Celestial Supreme Palace sneered and grabbed at Luo Qingtong. The attack in his hand was piercingly cold. It was obvious that he wanted to seriously injure Luo Qingtong and capture her. Seeing that the hand was about to land on Luo Qingtong's body and the sharp light on it was about to blast Luo Qingtong, boom! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. One hand supported Luo Qingtong's slender waist, and in the next second, bang! Chapter 1823. Ming Zun. Seeing Yi Qianxian appear beside Luo Qingtong, the Grand Supreme Dean's expression changed from one of anxiety to one of joy. Yi Qianxian stood beside Luo Qingtong, hovering in the air. His eyes were chilling to the bone. The dark golden mask that covered his face seemed to have a flowing light flowing through it. His gaze swept across the bloodstain at the corner of the lips of the girl in his arms. In an instant, the raging flames within him were about to erupt like a volcano ambushed under a glacier. This woman was actually injured in front of him. These people from Celestial Palace must all die. He looked at the protector of Celestial Palace in front of him. The protector was startled when his hand was caught in his grasp. The man's aura was monstrous. Enveloped by the man's aura, the protector could not even control the flow of the aura within his body. It was as if he had been frozen. His hand was caught in Yi Qianxian's grasp, and he could not move at all. The strength of an upper-level Saint King seemed to be of no use in front of this man. The Celestial Palace protector was aghast. He looked at Yi Qianxian and shouted sternly, "Who are you?" "We are from Celestial Palace." Before he could finish his words, Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He had already broken the protector's hand. Crack, crack, crack. The crisp sound of bones cracking extended from the place where Yi Qianxian held the protector's hand. In the blink of an eye, the bones of the Celestial Palace protector were shattered into pieces. Not only that, but his head also exploded in an instant, turning into fragments. Boom! With a flick of Yi Qianxian's hand, the Celestial Palace protector's body was smashed to the ground. Yi Qianxian raised his cold eyes and stared at the other two Celestial Palace protectors not far away. Celestial Palace. The man's thin lips opened slightly, and his voice was low, containing infinite killing intent. The two Celestial Palace protectors felt as though they had been splashed with a bucket of ice water when he stared at them. From the beginning to the end, it was completely cold. How could there be such a powerhouse in the true Spill continent? The strength of the other party made them tremble from the bottom of their hearts. Just being stared at by him made him feel like he was suffocating. The two of them were Saint Kings, especially high-class Saint Kings and Peak Saint Kings. Even the Celestial Peak Palace Master had never given them such a feeling. What realm was the other party at? A Holy Spirit or a Holy Venerable? The two of them were horrified. They exchanged glances, and when Yi Qianxian raised his head to look at them, they abruptly leaped into the air. Split up. Return to the hidden world. Spread the news. Their figures flashed to the left and right, each in two different directions to avoid being chased by Yi Qianxian. However, as soon as they moved, a voice rang out. Boom! Yi Qianxian waved his sleeve, and in an instant, a powerful and terrifying force completely enveloped them. This force was so strong that they simply could not resist it. The two of them were horrified to the extreme. Their figures were frozen in midair, just as they were about to leave. At this time, they finally knew that Yi Qianren's strength was so strong that it was hard for them to estimate. Chapter 1824. When they thought of this, they were even more shocked. What made them even more shocked and incredulous was that they had never heard of anything related to Yi Qianren in the hidden world. It had to be known that most powerhouses of the outer realms would have to pass through the hidden world if they wanted to descend to the true Spill continent. With their strength, even if they didn't know much, they should still be able to gather some information about this person. But they had never heard of anything related to Yi Qianxian. It was as if he had never appeared. What did this mean? It meant that this person's strength was enough to cross the hidden world that was the barrier and gateway between the outer realms and the true Spill continent, and directly appear in the true Spill continent. If this was true, then this person's strength might be above their imaginations. After all, for an existence as powerful as the Star Alliance, the majority of powerhouses still had to rely on the hidden world to enter the true Spill continent. This man's strength, just how formidable was he? And the young girl that he was protecting in his arms, the two people's eyes turned to Luo Qingtong. They watched as she wiped the blood from her lips and coldly glared at them. Her eyes were filled with a murderous and bloodthirsty intent. Domineering and enchanting, stunning beyond compare. In an instant, their vision darkened. They had actually offended such a young girl, and the person behind her was someone that even the entire hidden world combined couldn't resist. The two Celestial Palace protectors felt waves of dizziness pass through their minds. They nearly fainted. If they knew that not only was Luo Qingtong's talent extraordinary and monstrous, but she also had a powerhouse like Yi Qianxian protecting her, they absolutely wouldn't have appeared to deal with her. But now, it was too late to say anything. As for the highest dean, he was even more surprised. He looked at Yi Qianxian. He didn't think that his strength would be far greater than what he had imagined. This person's origins were mysterious and unfathomable. A long time ago, he had already guessed that this person might be someone from the outer realms. Now, he had only confirmed this. This underworld revered indeed had an extraordinary origin. As the Grand Supreme Dean thought this, on the other side, the two Celestial Palace protectors were already screaming miserably. Previously, when they wanted to kill and capture the Grand Principal and Luo Qingtong, their momentum was so arrogant and domineering, and they were insufferably arrogant. At this moment, he was screaming like a ghost. Where was the imposing manner and valiance from before? He was begging for mercy like a drowned rat. Under their feet, beams of power were eroding and destroying their bodies, turning their flesh and bones into ashes inch by inch. It looked as if his entire body had been ground to dust from his feet to his head. Yi Qianqian's eyes were cold. He deliberately controlled his strength so that they would be reduced to ashes bit by bit during the extremely painful process. No, we were wrong. I beg you, please spare us. The two celestial palace protectors cried bitterly and begged for mercy. They couldn't bear such pain anymore. But Yi Qianqian's eyes didn't show the slightest bit of emotion. He was in a high position and held great power. He had seen this kind of attitude that changed from arrogance to deference. If he didn't have this kind of strength, would they beg for mercy? Chapter 1825. Thinking of the trace of blood at the corner of Luo Qingtong's lips just now, Yi Qianqian's eyes turned cold, and he became even more ruthless. With his strength, if he had not been so angry that he deliberately tortured these two people, how could he have let them live until now? He could have killed them with a raise of his hand. Just like the upper Saint King Realm Celestial Palace protector from before. The cries of the two Celestial Palace powerhouses became more and more shrill. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Where did you get this thing? She raised her hand and took something from the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse. It was a pendant-like spirit artifact, flashing with light, trying to block Yi Qianqian's attack. These two Celestial Palace powerhouses had many such spirit artifacts, but they were completely useless against Yi Qianqian's attack. The reason why Luo Qingtong noticed this pendant was because it looked exactly the same as something on her body. Swish! Luo Qingtong raised her hand and pulled the pendant hanging around her neck. The two pendants were placed side by side, and they were exactly the same. The only difference was that the pendant hanging around Luo Qingtong's neck was much more exquisite, and its aura looked much more simple and profound. But other than that, the two pendants looked the same. Even the patterns and veins on them were exactly the same. Obviously, the pendant on the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse was a replica of the pendant on Luo Qingtong's neck. And the pendant on Luo Qingtong's neck was one of the betrothal tokens between her and Yuan Mo. Her piece was left behind by Luo Jinghong. The pendant on the other party's neck was exactly the same as hers. It was obvious that someone had seen her pendant before and had copied it accordingly. Luo Qingtong's eyes were sharp. And Yi Qianxian had already stopped attacking the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse when Luo Qingtong took the pendant from his neck. The other party still had half of his body left. And the other Celestial Palace protector of the Upper Saint King Realm had long been turned into ashes by Yi Qianqian's corrosive light. Where did you get this pendant? Have you heard of Luo Jinghong? Luo Qingtong asked the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse who was struggling in pain. Tell me what you know, and I'll let you die quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear what I'm going to do next. With the various interrogation techniques that Luo Qingtong knew in her previous life in the 24th century, the pain that this Peak Saint King would have to endure would be 100 times worse than what she was experiencing now. It's best not to challenge her patience. As for Luo Qingtong, she never bothered to negotiate terms and compromise with her enemies. If the other party dared to use this to threaten her, then she would definitely let the other party know what it was like to live a life worse than death. Hearing this, the Peak Saint King Realm Master's body trembled violently. He did want to use this to threaten Luo Qingtong to let him go. But now that Luo Qingtong said this, he instantly gave up this idea in despair. After all, for Yi Qianxian, it was too easy to make him live a life worse than death. He couldn't threaten the other party at all, so he might as well say it out loud. I'll talk. As he spoke, he told her about the pendant. It turned out that he had picked up this pendant. Chapter 1826. Because he saw that the pendant style was good and its grade was not low, he took it with him. As for that person's name, he did not know, nor did he know if it was the person Luo Qingtong was looking for. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Beast-taming King Valley. This matter was actually related to that place. Luo Qingtong had been paying attention to this Peak Saint King Realm Master, so she could naturally see that the other party was not lying. In other words, the person being chased by beast-taming King Valley was most likely Luo Jinghong. Even if it was not, she was afraid that it had something to do with him. Otherwise, there would never be a replica of the pendant on her. While Luo Qingtong was thinking, Yi Qianxian had already raised his hand and killed the Peak Saint King Realm Master who kept begging for mercy. He looked down at Luo Qingtong. The anger in his eyes had not completely disappeared. This woman had asked clearly what she wanted to ask. Was it his turn now? Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. When he tore space to come, he saw Luo Qingtong blocking in front of the Grand Principal through the vibrating space ripples. This woman actually dared to put herself in danger. Luo, Qi. His voice was dangerous. Luo Qingtong was thinking about something at this moment, but suddenly heard Yi Qianxian's voice that seemed to contain infinite anger, and she suddenly had an idea. She came back to her senses and looked at the suppressed anger in the man's eyes. In a flash, she probably thought of the reason. In an instant, she held her forehead. Oh, why is my head so dizzy? As she spoke, she fell into Yi Qianxian's arms. Of course, as she pretended to faint. It was better than this man settling accounts with her in anger, right? In fact, she was only slightly injured. When she blocked in front of the Grand Principal, the sword had already dissipated most of the attack power. The aftermath of the attack did not hurt her deeply. But this man most likely would not listen to her explanation. Luo Qingtong thought about it and decided to pretend to faint. It was better to make this man feel distressed than to make him angry. It was easy to get wrinkles when you were angry. She was doing this for his own good. Luo Qingtong was lying in Yi Qianxian's arms. She felt the man's arm tighten, and then he rushed out. She stuck out her tongue in her heart. It was quite fun to be mischievous once in a while. This feeling of being cared for and protected by others was really not bad. Luo Qingtong leaned against Yi Qianxian's chest and rested her head on his chest. Unknowingly, she fell asleep amidst his steady heartbeat. She had expended a lot of energy this time. First, she had fought the Breeze Pavilion Master, then she had fought the people of Celestial Palace. She had almost exhausted all of her strength. Not to mention that she had already used up all of her mental strength. Now that she was in Yi Qianxian's arms, she knew that she was safe. She wasn't afraid that the man would come to settle the score with her, so she immediately fell asleep. This was something that was hard to imagine in the past. At least before she transmigrated and met Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong had never thought that she would one day fall asleep in a man's arms after expending all of her energy in a great battle. Usually, she would find a secluded and hidden place to recuperate before appearing in front of others. But now, with Yi Qianxian by her side, she didn't seem to need these things. The man would protect her well. Chapter 1827. Luo Qingtong slept for close to an entire day. She was prepared to pretend to faint and then go back to Yuhuang City and pretend that she was fine after waking up. This way, she would be able to get away from Yi Qianxian's anger and they wouldn't be too worried. However, she didn't expect that because she was too tired and Yi Qianxian's embrace was too warm and safe, she unknowingly fell asleep. When she woke up, she found that her surroundings were in chaos. Old Man Luo, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the people from Tianxia were all surrounding her, filling up the entire room she was in. They were all looking at her with red eyes. As for Su Xiaoxiao, when she saw that she had woken up, she almost burst into tears. "Boss, you're finally awake." Ever since Su Xiaoxiao decided to be Luo Qingtong's personal combat alchemist, her crybaby personality changed a lot. She was showing signs of going back to her original self. Luo Qingtong looked at her eyes that were as red as a rabbit's from crying and then looked at the people surrounding her. Her mind instantly went blank. Then she remembered that she had pretended to faint yesterday and then she pretended to fall asleep. So, did they all think that something had happened to her? Luo Qingtong thought about it and her lips instantly twitched. Damn, this was a big misunderstanding. She was thinking about it when she suddenly heard a hoarse voice. All right, she's fine now. You guys can leave first. Following this voice, Luo Qingtong turned around and saw Yi Qianxian sitting not too far away from her bed. The man's appearance didn't change much from before, but his eyes were bloodshot. It was obvious that he had been watching over her for a long time. Seeing her look over, Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent, but the hand holding Luo Qingtong's hand slightly tightened. Everyone nodded and left when they heard this. They were relieved that Luo Qingtong woke up and was fine. A group of people was indeed not conducive to Luo Qingtong's cultivation. With that thought in mind, everyone got up and left. Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi reminded Luo Qingtong to have a good rest and not worry about other things. After that, they also left. Luo Qingtong laughed dryly in response. This time, she had no choice but to pretend to be sick. Oh my God, I've gone too far. Soon, only Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were left in the room. She peeked at Yi Qianxian's expression, wondering if he had noticed that she had pretended to faint. Was this the calm before the storm, or had he not noticed? As Luo Qingtong was thinking, Yi Qianxian stood up. Hungry? He looked at Luo Qingtong. No, Luo Qingtong was about to say that she wasn't hungry, but her stomach growled at this moment. Luo Qingtong looked at her disappointing stomach. At this time, the enemy's situation was unknown, so why was she growling? However, she had slept for almost a day, so she was indeed hungry. Cough. I'm hungry. Luo Qingtong nodded. Yi Qianxian responded and then walked out. Luo Qingtong looked at his back and blinked. This man was so calm. He shouldn't have exposed himself, right? Chapter 1828. No matter what, since she had been misunderstood, she had to pretend to be sick for a few days. Otherwise, after causing so many people to worry for so long, it would be strange if she wasn't hunted down collectively. Not to mention anything else, she couldn't get past Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. If they found out that she had pretended to faint, they would hate her to death. Not to mention that there was also Yi Qianxian. Luo Qingtong thought so and the corners of her lips twitched even more. At this moment, Yi Qianxian walked in from outside. The man was holding a bowl of porridge in his hand. Luo Qingtong looked at the pale white porridge that was useless except for rice grains. She suddenly felt that even if she only pretended to be sick for a few days, it would be miserable. So she could only eat this during this period of time. Luo Qingtong looked at the bowl of porridge with resentment. At this moment, Yi Qianren was already in front of her. He helped her up. Luo Qingtong subconsciously wanted to pick up the bowl of porridge. However, before she could move, Yi Qianxian had already sat beside her. He scooped up a spoonful of porridge, put it to his lips and blew on it. Then, he clumsily fed it to her lips. Yi Qianxian's movements were very unnatural. It was obvious that he had never done such a thing before. The truth was naturally so. With his noble status, who did he need to serve? He didn't even have the chance to look at others. That small white porcelain spoon almost directly poked Luo Qingtong's face and almost knocked her teeth. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian and couldn't come back to her senses. This man was feeding her. However, she was clearly pretending to be dizzy. Her hands weren't broken. Luo Qingtong looked at her hands that had already reached out of the quilt and seriously suspected that there was some kind of brainwave misunderstanding between herself and Yi Qianxian. Qianren, cough, Since she was still pretending to be sick, Luo Qingtong tried to speak in a weak tone. She blinked her eyes and looked at the man in front of her who was still handsome and noble even though he was slightly haggard. She said, "My hand is fine." It would be troublesome if this man thought that she was seriously injured. Luo Qingtong just didn't want him to be angry, but she didn't want him to be too worried. "I know." Yi Qianxian glanced at her. If something happened to her hand, he would not be here right now. He would definitely go to the hidden world and slaughter the entire celestial palace. You've used up too much of your mental energy. You've slept for so long. It'll be troublesome if you don't have any energy left. Let me feed you. This time, when Luo Qingtong fainted, it really scared Yi Qianxian. He still remembered the feeling of the girl falling into his arms. After that, he hurriedly took her back to the imperial city, and she fainted in his arms. That feeling of losing her almost drove Yi Qianren to the brink of insanity. If he hadn't carefully checked that Luo Qingtong's body was fine and that she was just unconscious, he was afraid that he would have lost control of himself long ago. Fortunately, he remembered that Luo Qingtong's mental strength was exhausted. Perhaps that was why she fell into a deep sleep. That was why he had waited patiently for it. Now that he heard Luo Qingtong seriously doubting his intelligence, the veins on his forehead twitched, but he finally suppressed them. This woman's body wasn't good, so he wouldn't argue with her for the time being. She was really restless even when she was injured. Chapter 1829. Open your mouth. Yi Qianxian said. Oh. Luo Qingtong looked at him seriously feeding her and unconsciously opened her mouth. She felt very strange. This was the first time she had been served like this. This feeling of being fed was so strange. It was just that the person feeding her wasn't very skilled. After Luo Qingtong was poked in the tooth by the spoon for the nth time, her face was full of black lines as she thought to herself. However, Yi Qianxian's ability to adapt was very fast. After a few times, he grasped the best distance and strength. After that, Luo Qingtong wasn't poked again. The two of them fed each other, and soon, the bowl of porridge was empty. Luo Qingtong was really hungry. She ate 5 bowls in a row before she felt full. When she wanted to eat the 6th bowl, Yi Qianxian took the bowl away. It's not good to eat too much. His expression was indifferent as he looked at Luo Qingtong and frowned slightly. You just woke up. Rest for a while before you continue eating. As he spoke, he asked someone to bring some fruits for Luo Qingtong to quench her thirst. Luo Qingtong ate the grapes that Yi Qianxian peeled for her and inexplicably couldn't come back to her senses. Yi Qianxian was really gentle like this. Luo Qingtong looked at the man in front of her who was gentle and meticulous. Suddenly, as she blinked and said, "I want to be fed by Yin Bao." It was rare for Yi Qianxian to be so easy to talk to. Luo Qingtong felt that she had to take an inch and take a mile. Otherwise, after this incident, she didn't know when the next opportunity would be. Luo Qingtong's words rang out. In an instant, the veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead popped out as he was feeding Luo Qingtong fruit. This woman. No. He said stiffly. The image of the cute little fox was one of his dark histories. It was fine in the past, but now she wanted him to take the initiative to change back. This was impossible. No. Luo Qingtong rolled her eyes and then decisively pretended to be weak. Ah. I suddenly feel a little dizzy. She held her forehead. Luo. Qi. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. He looked at Luo Qingtong holding her forehead. The veins on his forehead popped, but he suppressed them in the end. This woman had just woken up. This time, she had used up too much of her spiritual power. He didn't know if there would be any side effects. He had already sent someone to invite Elder Yu. Before that, he would just let her be. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianqian's face darkened and he didn't say anything else. "I'll transform." He squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. With a swoosh, the man released the power that was suppressing the demonic fox blood curse in his body. Soon, after a faint silver light, a furry, round little thing appeared on Yi Qianqian's gold-threaded silver robe and wriggled out. A small silver fox stuck its head out of Yi Qianqian's oversized robe. Then, the 2 little ears fluttered, and the little claws crawled out of the hole, 1 step at a time. Silver treasure. Luo Qingtong saw the little silver fox crawl out of the robe and happily picked it up. Yi Qianxian looked at her happy expression with displeasure. He raised his paw and slapped her face in disgust, telling her to let go of him. Luo Qingtong didn't care at all. She originally thought that after returning from the northern region, she would never see Yi Qianxian turn into a silver fox again. Chapter 1830. She grabbed the silver fox's paw and kissed it. Then, she put it on the long table in front of her and looked at it expectantly. "Humph," Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. With a cold face, it raised its paw and pushed the fruit plate in front of Luo Qingtong. "Awo! Eat! I want Yin Bao to feed me." Luo Qingtong looked at it with a smile. After the man turned into Yin Bao, his face was full of disdain and arrogance. It was too cute. This was breaking the rules. She heard that the duration of the demon fox blood curse was 3 years. After 3 years, she wouldn't be able to see Yi Qianxian turn into Yin Bao again. She had to work hard to seize the opportunity. Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark face. The smile on the girl's face was indescribably bright. It made her look full of vitality and a lot better. Thinking that she had just woken up from her coma, Yi Qianqian's temper disappeared. "Awo!" It raised its paw and walked in front of the fruit plate. There were already diced fruits on it. There were thin bamboo sticks on them. Yi Qianxian used its cute fox paw to fiddle with the bamboo stick, trying to hold it up. Paji. The gap between its paws was too big. It couldn't hold the bamboo stick tightly. In an instant, the diced fruit fell to the ground. However, Luo Qingtong had already put a small bowl in her hand under Yi Qianqian's paw and caught the diced fruit. "It's delicious." She ate the diced fruit. Then, she took one to feed Yi Qianxian. The man snorted coldly and ate it. Then, he used his paw to fiddle with another bamboo stick and continued to feed Luo Qingtong fruit. This woman was really a disaster in his life. In the past, he would never have thought that such a disaster would appear in his life. It made him so angry that his teeth itched, but he also loved her to the bone. Yi Qianqian's cute fox face was cold. He was doing something he would never do in the past. The man and the fox fed each other, and soon, the plate of fruits was cleaned out. Bei Qing and Wind Feather, who were standing guard not far away, were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Master actually turned into a silver fox. Bei Qing raised her hand and poked Wind Feather, who was beside her, and asked, "Am I dreaming?" With his master's personality, he actually turned into a silver fox when the evil doctor already knew that he was Yin Bao. Oh my God! Did he see wrongly? "You're not dreaming." Feng Yu's lips twitched. Ever since her master fell in love with the evil doctor, she had been lowering her bottom line. In the future, it seemed that he would never return from the path of being a slave to his wife. The scary thing was that his master didn't think that. He still felt that he wasn't indulging the evil doctor. "Oh my God, Master, you've already done this, and you still don't call this indulgence." "That's right, this can't be called indulgence, this is called extreme adoration." Feather's lips twitched. He was glad that this was the true spill continent and not the other side, otherwise. Just based on his master's actions, he didn't know how big of a wave it would set off. Thinking of those people who knew that Yi Qianxian had someone he liked, they had never stopped their actions and probing. Feather's heart was very cold. It had been half a year since then. Those people's actions were getting bigger and bigger. Chapter 1831. Those people would find their way here sooner or later. At that time, the existence of the evil doctor would be exposed. He didn't know how much blood he would have to face. Master's identity meant that those who stood by his side would not live a peaceful life. He didn't know if the evil doctor could withstand it. Evil doctor, you have to improve your strength as soon as possible, he secretly said in his heart. After all, those people couldn't deal with Master, so they would inevitably turn their attention to her. The position beside Master wasn't something that ordinary people could stand on. Moreover, she couldn't stand up. Luo Qingtong didn't cultivate in Imperial City for long. After helping Su Yu and the others purify all the immortal jade bones that they had hunted before, she left with Yi Qianxian and went to the hidden world. She wanted to go to beast-taming King Valley to investigate Luo Jinghong. If not, Luo Qingtong would have waited for Su Yu and the others to improve their strength before going to the hidden world together. After all, after the eruption of the aura in the land of the fallen immortals, it would be a month before the aura in the land of the fallen immortals weakened. At that time, it would be the best time to enter the land of the fallen immortals. It was also the time when the powerhouses of the hidden world would enter once a year to search for treasures and try their luck. With Su Yu and the others' current strength, they could go in and try. What if they gained something? However, there were still many monsters in the space at the bottom of the cliff. It would be better for Su Yu and the others to gain experience than to go to the hidden world. In addition, Luo Qingtong came here in advance because she had something to do alone, so she didn't bring them. Shua. Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian and the others disappeared in the passage between the true Spill Continent and the hidden world. The hidden world was the gateway between the outer realm and the true Spill Continent. It was the true Spill Continent's world within a world. The thin barrier was not as difficult to break as the outer realm. As long as one's strength was above the sage realm, they could tear it apart and enter. Luo Qingtong would have been in the hidden world if it weren't for the fact that she had to go to the Northern Territory and the unforeseen events that happened in the Southern Territory. However, this delay would only be beneficial to Luo Qingtong and not detrimental. Other things aside, her strength had already risen to the Saint Lord realm. Not only that, but she also received news about Luo Jinghong. Although he wasn't sure if the person who was captured by the beast-taming King's Valley was Luo Jinghong, some news was better than no news at all. Luo Qingtong hadn't told Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi about this yet. After all, the matter had not been decided yet. If he told them too early, it would inevitably cause them to be even more disappointed. Furthermore, if that person was really Luo Jinghong, who knew what happened to him when he was chased by the beast-taming King's Valley. Before she thoroughly investigated this matter, Luo Qingtong did not intend to reveal it to Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. He hoped that the final result would be good. Otherwise, he was afraid that Grandpa and Grandma wouldn't be able to take it. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. The group of people appeared in the hidden world and quickly rushed in the direction of the beast-taming King's Valley. Before Luo Qingtong came, she had already asked Yan Yu about the situation and terrain of the hidden world. She was not completely unfamiliar with this place. At this time, in the beast-taming King's Valley, the beast-taming King Gu Guju was furious. Bastard! A bunch of trash. Chapter 1832. Beast-tamer King Gu Guju's aura was overbearing. The group of Beast-Tamer Valley elders and disciples that were responsible for investigating all lowered their heads, not daring to utter a single word. They were also very depressed. They thought that this would be a simple mission. After all, the ones that died were a group of Beast-Tamer Valley disciples. With such a large target, it should have been easy for them to investigate. Even if the other party destroyed the corpses, they should still have been able to leave behind some clues. But what was strange was that they only found out that Han Dong and the others had gone to the True Spill Continent's mortal world. No one thought that in the True Spill Continent's mortal world, there would be a powerhouse that could kill them. After all, Han Dong was not only a Saint Master Realm powerhouse, but also a high-level beast tamer with a monster beast by his side. Not to mention the other Beast Tamer Valley disciples. In such a situation, how could there be someone in the True Spill Continent's mortal world that could kill them? Moreover, it was said that this person had even shattered the Valley Master's divine sense. It had to be known that the Valley Master was a Saint Master Realm powerhouse. In order to shatter his divine sense, one had to be at least a Saint Emperor level powerhouse. No one would place their target in the mortal world. They thought that Han Dong and the others had died after returning to the hidden world. But no matter how much they investigated, they couldn't find anything. Hearing Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's angry voice, they all quickly apologized. "Valley Master, please forgive us." "Humph." Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's voice was icy cold. "I just learned that Han Dong and the others went out because they wanted to capture a thunder beast for Jingyu as a birthday gift." Jingyu was his daughter's name. She was the little princess of Beast Tamer Valley, the apple of his eye. In a few days, it would be her birthday banquet. Not only that, but it would also be her 16th coming-of-age ceremony. Han Dong had gone to capture a thunder beast for her. Go and investigate according to these conditions. Do not miss a single clue. I want the person who killed Han Dong to die. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's voice was filled with killing intent. Someone had dared to kill a disciple of Beast Tamer Valley, and his own disciple at that. This enmity had to be avenged. Once he found the culprit, he would make sure that person died without a burial ground, his entire family exterminated. Yes. Everyone hurriedly responded. They heaved a sigh of relief. With the lightning beast as a condition, it was much easier to investigate. Even if he did not know the exact location, he would be able to find out where Han Dong and the others had died as long as he checked the places they had been to. At that time, he might be able to find out who killed Han Dong and the others. With that thought in mind, everyone hurriedly went to make arrangements. While the Beast Tamer King Gu Guju was raging, in the main city of the Beast Tamer King Valley, Tianfeng City. Shua. A group of people appeared not far away. This is Tianfeng City, the main city of the Beast Taming King Valley, where the sect is located. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stood side by side. She looked at the towering city in front of her. Its scale was even greater than the holy capital of the Empire of Qin and the holy capital of the Great Chu. This huge city was like a gigantic beast crawling in front of them. Among them, an extremely powerful aura soared into the sky. Clearly, there were many powerhouses inside. Moreover, he was very strong. Chapter 1833. This city had 8 gates. Luo Qingtong and the others entered from the main gate. After entering the city, they had to walk. Otherwise, the forbidden space barrier in the sky would teach them a lesson. Luo Qingtong and the others didn't want to attract attention this time, so they didn't take the spirit ship. After all, the Blackfield spirit ship was too iconic. Luo Qingtong might come here to cause trouble, so she naturally didn't want to expose her identity to avoid being traced. Yi Qianxian didn't care, but if Luo Qingtong wanted to do this, he didn't object. What's more, his sky-high flying ship was indeed a bit special. The people of True Spill Continent couldn't see anything, but those people from the Star Alliance's branch hall. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't want to be seen through for the time being, at least not now. Yi Qianxian glanced at the woman beside him. Luo Qingtong was pretending to look around with interest. However, the bloody light in her eyes flickered slightly, and the 3D diagram of the forbidden space array above her head appeared in her pupils. In an instant, she completely saw through this array. The weaknesses and flaws were all revealed in front of her. Luo Qingtong's pupil technique slightly shrank. She had already remembered the weaknesses and flaws, so she didn't need to look anymore. For Luo Qingtong, as long as she saw through the internal structure of an array, then no matter how others changed it, improved it, or advanced it, it was useless to her. She could still see through it at a glance, and she didn't need to use her pupil technique. After Luo Qingtong easily remembered the forbidden space array, she began to look at the various defenses of the surrounding city, the distribution of troops on the city walls, the array barriers, and the main energy absorption points. The blood-red light in her eyes flickered continuously. Everywhere she went, she would see through everything, no matter how big or small. But on the surface, she looked like an ordinary 16-year-old girl, curiously looking around. Evil doctor. Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't know about Luo Qingtong's blood pupils, so they were a little surprised when they saw it. They were surprised not because Luo Qingtong had embarrassed them, but because the evil doctor was usually so domineering and evil. How could she have such a naive and romantic side? The contrast was too great, and they couldn't bear it. They felt that the evil doctor's actions were too strange. I beg you to change back. The two of them felt their hair stand on end. At this moment, Yi Qianxian glanced at them and asked, "Do you have any objections?" "No." The two of them were instantly terrified. What a coward. Master's wife protecting demon mode had been activated. In the past, he would restrain himself a little, saying things like he wanted to teach the evil doctor a lesson and let him know that he could not be arrogant just because he was pampered. "Master, I'll kneel to you." You're clearly saying that the evil doctor doesn't rely on favor to become arrogant, and you want her to rely on favor to become arrogant as well. We haven't said anything yet. You're insulting us. My heart is tired and I don't love. The two of them clutched their chests as they thought about it. Yi Qianxian tightened his grip on Luo Qingtong's hand. He liked Luo Qingtong no matter what she looked like. Moreover, he knew a little about Luo Qingtong's pupil technique. Looking at her, he guessed that she was looking at the defenses of the city. But, was this girl's pupil technique so powerful? She could see through everything in the world. Basically, no one in the world could do what Luo Qingtong did. Chapter 1834. However, Luo Qingtong's pupil technique didn't seem to have this problem at all. As her strength grew, her pupil technique also seemed to be getting more and more powerful. The pearl in his palm was slowly beginning to shine brightly. "Haha, Yinshi, come over and take a look, there's a country bumpkin here." What a joke, he looks like a fool. Just as Yi Qianxian was faintly protecting Luo Qingtong from the crowd to prevent anyone from bumping into her, an ear-piercing voice rang out. It was filled with mockery and ridicule. Yi Qianxian's expression darkened slightly, and he immediately turned to look in the direction of the voice. His gaze was sharp, as if it contained countless saber lights and bloody swords. As far as his eyes could see, there seemed to be sharp swords and saber shadows everywhere, piercing towards the person who was mocking Luo Qingtong. It was a young girl dressed in green. At this moment, she was making fun of Luo Qingtong while raising her hand and pointing in her direction. Being pierced by Yi Qianxian's gaze, her face turned pale, and an indescribable sense of fear suddenly appeared in her heart. She couldn't help but take a step back, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, the girl dressed in white beside her supported her. "Hey, why are you glaring at me?" She almost made a fool of herself in public. After shaking off the hand of the girl dressed in white, the girl dressed in green rushed towards Yi Qianxian and the others. "Do you think I've hit your sore spot?" The girl dressed in green said as she looked disdainfully at Luo Qingtong beside Yi Qianxian. "You're obviously a fool, but you don't let people talk about you. Do you think you'll become smarter if you don't talk? She had a sharp expression on her face. At this time, Luo Qingtong had just finished analyzing half of the city's defenses. The level of the array in the main city of beast-taming King's Valley was a little high, so it was more difficult for her to analyze it. She wanted to take a break before continuing. However, when she lowered her head, she found that she was being scolded. Fool! Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the girl dressed in green. Then she turned to look at the man beside her and asked silently, "Did you provoke her? How could he still attract peach blossoms like this?" In view of the tragic situation when she traveled with Yu Sihuang last time, Luo Qingtong directly changed Yi Qianqian's mask to an extremely ugly one that people wouldn't even want to look at. How could he attract troublesome peach blossoms like this? Luo Qingtong felt that it was necessary for her to make Yi Qianren ugly in the future. Although she couldn't bear to do this to the man's handsome face that could make people commit crimes. Peach blossoms. Especially her own man's. Luo Qingtong still had that innocent and romantic smile on her face, but the coldness in her eyes made Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were standing behind Yi Qianren, shiver. The evil doctor seemed to be unhappy. Master. They glanced at Yi Qianxian in front of them. They didn't know if they should sympathize with their master. This black pot was wronged. God knows that their master's eyes were full of the evil doctor. He even scolded them for the evil doctor. How could he have time to attract peach blossoms? The two of them looked sympathetic. Yi Qianqian's face also darkened. The veins on his forehead popped. It wasn't because of Luo Qingtong's silent question. It was because the girl dressed in green made him be misunderstood by Luo Qingtong. Get lost. His voice was cold. The temperature around him dropped. Chapter 1835. The green-clothed girl wanted to continue mocking them, but Yi Qianqian's cold gaze and the aura around him pierced her. In an instant, her face turned pale and she took a step back. Humph. What's so great about you? She looked at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian with some fear and indignation. We want to become beast tamers. If you have the ability, then fight us here. Let's see how the Beast Tamer Valley will deal with you. Beast Tamer Valley. Beast Tamers. A strange light flashed through Luo Qingtong's eyes as she glanced at the girl. At this moment, the other white-clothed girl hurriedly said, "Yun Yan, stop fooling around. It was wrong of you to make fun of others." "I'm sorry." She nodded at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian and apologized. "My sister was rash this time. Please don't blame her." As she spoke, she timidly glanced at Yi Qianxian. She didn't know why, but even though the man's mask was extremely ugly and disgusting, and he looked very fierce, she couldn't help but look at him. He had a charm that made people unable to take their eyes off him. Especially that figure, there was an indescribable aura within it. Seeing the white-clothed girl's gaze, Luo Qingtong looked at the man beside her with a smile that wasn't a smile. And he still said that he didn't attract any girls. This was clearly expressed in her eyes. In an instant, Yi Qianqian's face, which was originally 50 to 60% black, turned 70 to 80% black. I'll say it again. Scram. This time, Yi Qianxian used his own aura to suppress them. His body clearly didn't emit any aura fluctuations. However, it was precisely this noble and honorable aura that came from within that person's bones that caused others to have no choice but to step back with pale faces. There was simply no way for them to disobey or resist at all. The white-clothed girl pulled her younger sister back with a panicked look on her face. In an instant, Yi Qianxian pulled Luo Qingtong's hand past them. Let's go. His voice was cold, and he didn't even look at them. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others quickly followed. Luo Qingtong still had a faint innocent and romantic smile on her face. This was the fake smile she put on when she was secretly using her eye technique to analyze something. She still had to continue analyzing the defenses of this city later, so she couldn't be bothered to remove it. She looked at the man striding forward in front of her with a faint smile in her eyes. Suddenly, she stepped forward 2 steps to catch up with him and whispered in his ear, "Why are you walking so fast? Are you feeling guilty after I hit the nail on the head? I'm not even angry yet. Why are you, a womanizer, angry?" Luo Qingtong looked at his sullen and dark face with amusement. "Shut up." Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark expression. This woman was simply infuriating. I'm not blind yet. What bees and butterflies did he attract? If it wasn't for the fact that this was the main city of the beast-taming King Valley, he was afraid that he would ruin her plans. That green-clothed girl just now couldn't get within 10 meters of him. "Oh, so you're saying that I'm prettier than them?" Luo Qingtong's eyes turned, and she giggled as she laid on top of him and transmitted her voice. In the eyes of others, she was delicate and pretty, leaning on him weakly. Her innocent and romantic smile didn't change at all. Yi Qianxian ignored her with a cold face. "Hey, is that right?" Luo Qingtong's hand secretly pinched his palm. Chapter 1836. Don't move. Yi Qianxian scolded her in a low voice and pinched her hands that were hiding under his sleeves. Luo Qingtong's hands were small and delicate. When he opened his fingers, they were wrapped in a circle. Luo Qingtong struggled but failed to break free. In an instant, she gritted her teeth. This man was using his strength to suppress her again. I knew you couldn't be trusted." Luo Qingtong rolled her eyes and snorted, "Since you didn't mean it that way, you must be blind to fall in love with them. You're really attracting bees and butterflies. You still don't want to admit it." The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead twitched. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others who were behind him heard the conversation between the two and were dumbfounded. "You're good, evil doctor. How could you explain it this way? Oh my God, you're right no matter how you turn it over. I was wrong." Feng Yu secretly transmitted a message to Bei Qing with a pained expression. "I originally thought Master was a henpecked husband because he spoiled the evil doctor too much. Now I know that if you fall in love with someone like the evil doctor, you have to be a henpecked husband." His wise and powerful master was completely under the control of the evil doctor. He couldn't fight at all. The evil doctor was really too powerful. How could he not be a henpecked husband when he met such a woman? It's better to believe that there are ghosts in this world than to believe in a man's lousy mouth. Oh. Before Luo Qingtong could finish her words, Yi Qianxian took off the mask on his face and kissed her instantly. The mask, which was as ugly as a Kunlun slave, blocked their faces and blocked the view of others. Behind them were Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others. Yi Qianxian kissed the woman in front of him fiercely and then deepened his kiss. When the kiss was over, he said in a hoarse voice, "Shut up." Yi Qianxian felt that this was the word he had said the most ever since he met Luo Qingtong. But the little woman in his arms was not afraid at all. She was truly his nemesis. Just as he was thinking, he heard Luo Qingtong mutter, "No." "On what basis? Why didn't you tell me to shut up when you were kissing me? I didn't say anything wrong. Don't think that you can seduce me with your handsome face." The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead throbbed as he raised his hand to cover her mouth. Luo Qingtong was still pretending to be a naive and romantic young woman. Seeing this, she didn't struggle. She just blinked and looked at him. Her appearance was as pure and beautiful as it could get. However, this was a witch wearing the skin of an angel. "You're beautiful." Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth and looked at her. He said word by word, "You are more beautiful than all of them. Even if I go blind in the future, I can only see you. That's more like it." Luo Qingtong giggled. The smile in her eyes was like a demon, but the expression on her face was still pure and innocent. The two completely different temperaments mixed together, making Yi Qinqian's eyes darken. This temptress. Luo Qingtong hugged his arm at this time. Let's go. She said with a smile, let's walk around and see if we can inquire about anything. To investigate Luo Jinghong's matter, they naturally had to come to the main city of beast-taming King Valley. In fact, Luo Qingtong and the others had tried to inquire about it in other cities along the way. However, after so many years, coupled with the arrogance and despotism of beast-taming King Valley, they had erased and kept the things they had done a secret. They didn't allow others to say anything bad about them. Therefore, Luo Qingtong and the others didn't inquire about what happened in the past. Chapter 1837. Hearing this, Yi Qinqian's eyes turned cold. He said to Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others, spread out and investigate. Report back to me if you have any news. He naturally went with Luo Qingtong, lest this woman suffered any losses here. After all, this was the main city of beast-taming King Valley, the location of a first-class sect in the hidden world. Yes. Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others responded, and then their figures spread out. Let's go. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian also walked forward. Sky Wind City was worthy of being the main city of beast-taming King Valley. It was very prosperous and lively. This main city accommodated all the powerhouses under the command of beast-taming King Valley. The sound of people selling things in the city was endless. There were all kinds of things being sold, many of which Luo Qingtong had never seen before in the true Spill continent. However, Luo Qingtong wasn't very interested in these. She didn't lack anything at the moment. The only thing she wanted was to improve her strength. However, this didn't prevent Luo Qingtong from talking to these peddlers. These peddlers had been mixed in with all kinds of people for a long time, so they knew many more things than the average person. Moreover, they were easy to get in touch with. Luo Qingtong was familiar with these things. She chatted with these peddlers skillfully, and soon became one with them. She talked about all kinds of gossip, but there was no news about beast-taming King Valley chasing someone. It wasn't just about the person that Luo Qingtong was looking for. But there was no news about this at all. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. If it wasn't for the fact that these peddlers didn't dare to speak up, then it was because the beast-taming King's Valley's methods were too formidable. They had completely wiped away all traces of the incident and maintained their image to the outside world. Tisk, Luo Qingtong licked her lips. She hated this kind of hypocritical and dignified people and things the most. I really want to destroy it. I want to expose its dark and filthy side. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, she suddenly heard a peddler say, By the way, have you heard about the recent events? I heard that the culprit who killed the core disciple of beast-taming King's Valley is about to be found. I heard that the core disciple was killed when he went to look for the thunder beast for Miss Jingyu's birthday. Right now, the beast-taming King's Valley is using the lightning beast as a lead to search everywhere. I think it won't be long before we find it, he said. That's right. Another peddler answered casually. Beast-taming King Valley is a first-rate sect. In the entire hidden world, there are very few things that they can't investigate, right? Unless one of those clans makes a move. He raised his hand and pointed upwards as he spoke in a low voice. That's right. But that's impossible. Another peddler said, if those families were to make a move, they wouldn't have to be so secretive. It's just a core disciple. So what if he's the Valley Master's disciple? Just as this person spoke up to hear, another person lowered his voice and said, Then you don't know. It's said that the dead disciple's identity is extraordinary. Not only is he related to the Valley Master, he's also related to the Grand Elder, Oh. So it's like that. Then it's no wonder. The other peddlers all came to a sudden realization. Soon after, they began to excitedly guess who it was that killed that core disciple. Luo Qingtong listened to them talk. These people were already very familiar with her and didn't avoid her. Chapter 1838. Beast Taming King Valley's core disciple, Thunder Beast. All of this pointed to a single point. Oh. She suddenly chuckled softly. She didn't expect that the core disciple surnamed Han she had killed in the western wilderness would have such a great background. But so what? Since she had killed him, she wasn't afraid. Luo Qingtong had never been afraid of anyone in her life. But, if the other party chased after Thunder Beast, would they cause any trouble? If they noticed Truth Spill Continent, then it would be troublesome. That Thunder Beast was Su Yu's contract beast. Luo Qingtong thought and suddenly felt lucky that she hadn't brought Su Yu and the others with her this time. Otherwise, something would have happened before they even reached Skywind City. Luo Qingtong listened to them talk for a while about Beast Taming King Valley holding a birthday banquet for the Valley Master's daughter, the little princess of Beast Taming King Valley. Luo Qingtong wasn't interested in these things. After a few more words and confirming that no one knew about the dark history of Beast Taming King Valley, she immediately left. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian then strolled around Skywind City. Luo Qingtong inquired about information while Yi Qianxian watched from the side. His face was completely covered by the mask that was as ugly as a Kunlun slave, but there was a kind of aura about him that could not be blocked. That tall and slender figure poked out, and when others casually glanced at him, they had an inexplicable feeling that they couldn't move their eyes away. However, Beast Taming King Valley was preparing to hold a birthday banquet, and there were many sect powerhouses coming to congratulate them. In Skywind City, there were many eye-catching people, but no one stared at Yi Qianxian. They just thought of him as a powerhouse who came here to celebrate the birthday banquet of Beast Taming King Valley's little princess. Other than secretly guessing the origin of his sect, there was nothing else. Luo Qingtong quietly inquired about things along the way, and when she saw something novel and interesting on the road, she called out to Yi Qianxian. The atmosphere between the two of them was unusually harmonious and warm. They looked like a young couple who had come out to play. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl beside him and felt a strange feeling that was very rare to him. His cold eyes, which seemed to contain countless saber lights and blood swords, softened slightly. Yi Qianren basically wouldn't have the feeling of walking among the commoners, mixing with them and becoming one with them. He and Luo Qingtong walked in Tianfeng City, listening to Luo Qingtong and those people from all walks of life chatting. Luo Qingtong's face was sweet, and she was playing the role of an innocent and romantic young woman. That kind of sweet and cute feeling made the people around her unguarded. After they got to know each other better, they would even casually tease Yi Qianxian. When Yi Qianxian heard these words, he felt a strange feeling in his heart. Before he met Luo Qingtong, there was absolutely no one who dared to talk to him like this. Even Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were taught by him and grew up with him, respected and revered him more than anything. They didn't dare to casually joke with him. While he was thinking, the middle-aged bearded uncle who was talking to Luo Qingtong suddenly stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. Yi Qianxian controlled the aura that was about to surge out of his body and looked at the other party. Chapter 1839. Ha, that's how it should be. You're such a blockhead. You're such a pretty girl, you have to protect her well. Otherwise, you'll cry if someone snatches her away. The bearded man winked at Yi Qianxian. Yi Qianren looked at him and suddenly curled her lips into a smile. That's right. He did have to protect her well. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl in her arms who was like a little bird, and the curve on her lips became even wider. Luo Qingtong was rarely so well behaved and gentle. He liked the other party's teasing very much. As Yi Qianxian spoke, he lifted Luo Qingtong in a princess carry. The latter was burying her head in his arms and trying to stifle her laughter. Before she could react, he had already trapped her in his arms and strode outside. "Hey, put me down first." Luo Qingtong struggled in his arms. She still wanted to find out more information. This man looked like he didn't want anyone to get close to him. How was she going to talk to him when he was hugging her like this? "I'm a blockhead, I don't understand what you're talking about." Yi Qianxian glanced at her but didn't stop walking. Don't think that he didn't hear what she said to the bearded man. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have suddenly run over to tease her. Although, he liked it quite a bit. Ahem. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but cough lightly. "I was just joking." Moreover, she stole a glance at Yi Qianxian. "Even if you're a blockhead, you're still the #1 divine tree in the world. Ordinary people can't compare to you." At this point, Luo Qingtong gave herself a thumbs up for her wits. It was perfect, wasn't it? "Is that so?" Yi Qianren looked at her with a smile that was not a smile. "But I'm not interested in being the #1 divine tree in the world. I just want to be a parasol tree." Luo Qingtong's curiosity was inexplicably aroused. "Why?" She looked at Yi Qianxian. Because, Yi Qianxian gazed deeply at her. "The phoenix perches on the wudong tree. Since she was a dazzling phoenix, then he would become the parasol tree that she was resting on. This way, no matter how she flew, she could only return to his side and never leave him." Luo Qingtong didn't understand the meaning of his words at first. After she understood, she looked at Yi Qianxian's passionate gaze. Her heart skipped a beat. This man was really breaking the rules. When did he max out his sweet nothing skill? This confession was simply a full-score critical hit. The killing power was too great. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but cover her burning cheeks. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and her lips curled up. When he looked at Yi Qianxian again, his eyes were full of evil and cunning. I also like phoenix, perch, wudong." Luo Qingtong enunciated each word clearly. Especially when she said the last 4 words, the smile on her face became more cunning, wanton, and enchanting. Yi Qianxian looked at the smile on her face. He didn't know why, but he had an inexplicable feeling that something was wrong. He felt that this woman's words had a deeper meaning. But other than the meaning that he had explained, what other meaning did she have? Yi Qianxian looked at the girl in his arms with a frown. Luo Qingtong, after saying that sentence, turned her head in an extremely good mood. She wasn't in a hurry to let Yi Qianxian put her down. Anyway, she wasn't in a hurry to find out the information. If this man wanted to hug her, she would let him. She would first analyze the defense of the surrounding city. As for the meaning of the sentence just now. Chapter 1840. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian returned to the inn when it was dark. This was the inn that Bei Qing and Feng Yu had rented, and there was a unique signal outside. As soon as Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stepped in, a waiter came up to them and led them to the backyard. Obviously, he had been ordered to do so. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian followed him to the backyard, which was a secluded area. It was an isolated area and did not have any connections with other people. Each courtyard was independent of each other and was separated by a certain distance. Master, the evil doctor. As soon as Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stepped into the courtyard, Bei Qing and Feng Yu sensed them. A group of people flew out of the hall and knelt in front of them. Yes. Yi Qianxian looked indifferent. He and Luo Qingtong walked into the hall and sat on the main seat, looking at Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who stood up and followed them. How's the investigation going? Have you found anything? Luo Qingtong did not find any useful clues in Tianfeng City. Now it was up to Bei Qing and Feng Yu to see if they could find anything. No. The group of people lowered their heads. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked very guilty. We've checked all the clues we can find. The people of the beast taming valley did it very cleanly. It said that as long as it's someone who goes against them, they'll definitely deal with them. But after that, they'll erase all traces. They said, everyone knows that the people of the beast taming valley did it, but there's no evidence. Sure enough. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She already had this feeling when she was trying to get information from them in Tianfeng City. Now, Bei Qing and Feng Yu's words confirmed her conjecture. The people of the beast taming valley have a very high status in the hidden world. Basically, even the people of the same first-class sects don't want to offend them. The beast taming king valley erased the evidence like this. Everyone else turned a blind eye to it. Bei Qing and Feng Yu said. Otherwise, the people of the beast taming valley would not have erased all traces so cleanly. This was also the reason why Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't know where to start. They acted separately from Luo Qingtong and went to investigate and get information from the people of the beast taming valley. The information they obtained was fragmented and not very detailed, not to mention the information obtained from the outside world. Without the tacit consent of the other sects, how could the beast taming valley be able to cover the sky with one hand? How could the powerful and influential people in Tianfeng City not know about something as big as hunting someone down? This was obviously not normal. And what Luo Qingtong wanted to find was something that happened more than 10 years ago, so the hope was even slimmer. Too much time had passed, and all the useful clues had been erased. Chapter 1841. But how could someone like that force information out of their mouths? If he were to use force, not to mention whether the other party would use this matter to threaten him, he would not be able to do anything. Yi Qianqian's body still had the hidden danger of the heavenly vein physique. It wasn't easy for him to use the heavenly fox's blood essence to extend his life for 3 years and increase the strength of his meridians, allowing him to use more strength. If he were to use force against the people of Beast Taming King Valley, what would he do if his strength exceeded his body's limit? One had to know that Beast Taming King Valley wasn't a sixth-rate sect like the Breeze Pavilion. First-rate sects were already the peak strength of the hidden world. Moreover, Beast Taming King Valley's strength was above the average first-rate sect. Pull one hair and the whole body will be affected. If the lips die, the teeth will be cold. The other first-rate sects would definitely not let them make a move against the people of Beast Taming King Valley. At that time, a group of first-rate sects would join forces and it would be equivalent to becoming the enemy of the entire hidden world. Luo Qingtong would never let Yi Qianxian take such a risk for her. Then there was only one last path left, which was to change her name and join Beast Taming King Valley. She would see if she could find any flaws and make a move against Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. The original order, the handwritten letter, and so on. It was possible that there was information about the people who were being chased. Luo Qingtong could use this to find out if the person being chased was her father Luo Jinghong. Yi Qianxian frowned but didn't say anything. According to his temperament, this matter didn't need to be so troublesome. He only needed to catch Beast Taming King Guguju and the others and interrogate them. Luo Qingtong was worried about the first-rate sects joining forces, but in Yi Qianxian's eyes, he didn't care at all. Not to mention the entire hidden world's people joining forces, even if the Star Alliance's people came here, Yi Qianxian wouldn't be afraid. It was just that his identity couldn't be hidden anymore. Yi Qianxian's eyes turned cold as he thought of those who had been searching for his whereabouts and wanted to come here. He couldn't let those people come over yet. At least for now, he couldn't let those people appear in front of Luo Qingtong. Alright, then let's sneak in. Seeing that he didn't have any objections, Luo Qingtong immediately nodded. She was just about to say something when suddenly, outside the courtyard walls, there was a sudden burst of noise. The courtyard where Luo Qingtong and the others were staying was the last one in the inn. Its location was somewhat remote, close to the street. At this moment, the sounds from the street outside could be heard faintly through the courtyard walls. Hey, look, it's the beast-taming King Valley's newly recruited disciples. How impressive. Yeah. Below the courtyard wall, a group of people were looking at the team at the end of the street with envy. The new disciples of the beast-taming King's Valley, this was a great honor. The preparatory disciples who were selected to enter the beast-taming King's Valley could basically become beast-taming masters in the future. Even if they couldn't become beast-taming masters in the end, being in a sect like the beast-taming King's Valley was far more powerful than being in other sects outside. Their status and identity couldn't be compared to the experts of ordinary sections. Experts of the same level, if the other party came from the beast-taming King's Valley, you would have to lower your head. Chapter 1842. In other sects, martial artists are martial artists, and soul cultivators are soul cultivators. But the beast tamers in beast-taming King Valley can still control demonic beasts to attack. One must know that a demonic beast is equivalent to a cultivator's help. Even a good demonic beast is far better than that. These people who are chosen to become apprentice disciples of beast-taming King Valley are really too lucky. What a pity, we don't have this life. Yes. To be chosen as a disciple, we have to go through a very strict selection test. Most importantly, we have to be tested by the aura of beast-taming King Valley to see if we can cultivate the art of beast-taming. Only those who can cultivate can be chosen as an apprentice disciple. Yes. The group sighs and is about to leave. They tried their luck before, but unfortunately, they were not chosen. The group turns around. At this moment, a figure jumps out from the courtyard wall behind them. Luo Qingtong smiles sweetly. She pats the shoulder of a young man who just turned around, smiles at him, and asks, "I wonder if you can tell me about beast-taming King Valley. I also want to become a disciple of beast-taming King Valley." Luo Qingtong is wearing a red dress, elegant and beautiful, and with a sweet smile, she looks like a harmless fairy under the moon. The young man was dumbfounded. He thought that it was a fairy under the moon who had revealed her true form. Until Luo Qingtong raises her hand and waves it in front of his face, he quickly comes back to his senses. His face turns red, and he says in a panic, Okay. He was at a loss for a while. Luo Qingtong looked at him and laughed. Boys of this age are so interesting to tease. While she is laughing, on the other side, Beiqing and Fengyu are standing in the middle of the courtyard, wiping their cold sweat as they peek at their master's expression. Just now, Luo Qingtong heard the discussion outside and rushed out. The group of them followed out, but they did not go out. But evil doctor, if we want to ask questions, we can be simple and rough. For example, we can drag people, beat them up, and force them to tell us. You don't need to use a honey trap. They feel that they can't withstand the overflowing cold air around their master. While Beiqing and Fengyu are constantly wiping their sweat, Luo Qingtong asks the young man about beast-taming King Valley's disciple recruitment. It turns out that every year at this time, beast-taming King Valley will recruit disciples who are suitable to cultivate the art of beast from their own territory. Of course, even if they didn't have the talent to cultivate the beast-taming art, they could still be selected by the beast-taming King Valley. But their strength and status may not be as strong as beast tamers in beast-taming King Valley. Generally, warriors and soul personages with such talent would go to other sects to cultivate. Therefore, every time the beast-taming King Valley recruited a disciple, they would have the aptitude to be a beast-taming master. When Luo Qingtong and the others arrived, they had just missed the beast-taming King Valley's disciple recruitment. At this moment, the group of probationary disciples had finished their selection and were preparing to leave Skywind City for the beast-taming King's Valley's main sect. Luo Qingtong nods her head. She heard about beast-taming King Valley's disciple recruitment in advance. She didn't expect to miss it. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.